Okay, so some of the things that are changing, especially in the transportation and the small parcel world. So I'm getting calls from, or have been getting calls constantly from customers, everything from $500,000 a year shippers to $200 million a year shippers. And most of their concerns revolve around a few things. Number one is most transportation contracts are what the carriers call self-regulated, meaning the more you ship, the more discount you get, the less you ship, the less discount you get. And that's real problematic in times like this because not only are companies dealing with slower sales, but as their sales slow, um, it also increases their cost per shipment. So they're getting hit on two fronts: lower sales and a higher cost to ship those packages. So a lot of them are asking what to do. So that's number one. And then number two, the second category of questions we get quite a bit is what do we need to adjust to the new normal after this? Because there would definitely be quite a few things that are different when all this is over. And we'll talk about that a little bit. So first, let's talk about how UPS and FedEx specifically are responding currently to the crisis, and then we'll talk about what's going on in the future. So the way they're responding currently is, as you might imagine, in general, it's not very good. So number one, both carriers, both UPS and FedEx, have implemented some type of COVID-19 surcharge, meaning they're charging more for shipments. For example, shipments out of China are costing more, and so forth. So there are new fees associated with the virus that did not exist before. And we do not know how long they're going to last. And there is some variance between the two carriers on what those fees are and what they apply to. So that's number one. Number two, with regard to the contract, that self-regulation piece of the contract, neither carrier has announced an official position. However, what we're seeing from UPS, the intelligence we're getting is if you approach UPS and tell them we need help with our contract because of COVID-19, then their standard response is that they will freeze your portfolio tier as of March 7th. And that's really important if you're having declining shipping volumes. That's something I would do like as soon as you hang up. So you have to use the words COVID-19 with your UPS rep, but they will freeze your rolling average so you will not suffer the downturn in your 52-week rolling average based on this. FedEx has not come out with a standard response yet. However, their contracts in general are much less punitive as you ship a little bit less, so the need isn't nearly as great as it is on the UPS side. But if you're a FedEx shipper, I'd reach out to them directly and see how they can help you individually. Moving forward, there's a lot of changes that are taking place. So number one is, as you can imagine, a lot of companies, we've accelerated the curve, I'm guessing 7, 8 years on e-commerce. So there are customers large shippers that I have that going into this, 7 to 8% of their sales, or 8 to 10% of their sales were online. Right now it's 40%, 50% of their sales are online. Now, of course, when this is over, that number will retreat a bit, but pretty much everyone expects it not to retreat fully. So what's happening is, whereas shippers used to ship the bulk of their shipments to their brick and mortar operation, which meant very few shipments, but very large shipments, heavy weights, large packages, all commercial, now they're shipping, instead of one box, dozens of boxes, and it's going to multiple locations, and they're all residences. So it's putting pressure not only on their contract, because their contract was not designed for that type of shipping volume, right? So it's not a good contract for that type of shipping, number one. And number two, their distribution capabilities and procedures are made to handle a certain number of packages going to commercial addresses, not 4 or 5 times as many going to residential addresses, and it's putting a lot of strain on their operation. So again, when all this is over, that will retreat a little bit, but almost nobody expects it to go back to pre-pandemic levels. So that's going to require changes both in the contract that you have to address your new characteristics, but also in how you process those packages, because you're looking at a very different supply chain than you looked at before then. So if I were to go back and give 3 bits of advice to shippers during this time, it would be number one, contact your carriers immediately for short-term help with your portfolio tier is the term UPS uses, or earned discount tier is the terms that FedEx uses. I would also assess the changes in your supply chain to see what you think are temporary and what you think are long-term. So e-commerce, how much is going to shift back versus not. Another trend we're seeing a lot of folks is alternate sourcing. So companies that used to get everything out of China are now looking for other sources because that crater in production from China is moving through the supply chain. And now they're finding other sources, and they may not be willing to go back to a China-centric strategy in that. So look at which of those are going to be permanent. And then lastly, once you figure out what truly is going to be permanent, you probably have to make operational and contractual changes to take advantage of that. And we're really seeing a difference out there. We see some folks that are already have their plans in place for when this ends, and they're ahead of the curve, right? They're ready to go, and things are already going to be different. They're ready for the new normal. And then we see other people that haven't begun to react yet. And it's going to change the balance in some industries based on how effectively folks come out of it and how quickly they make those adjustments.